In this lesson, we are going to be talking about ocean currents. And so ocean currents are masses of ocean water that flow from one place to another. Okay, and so there are two types of ocean currents that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about surface currents, and we're going to talk about deep currents. So we'll talk about surface currents first. Okay, so our surface currents are the currents that are in the top 400 meters of the ocean. So that's only about 10% of our ocean. Let's do. Okay, 10% of the ocean. And so the force driving our surface currents, the wind. The wind pushes it by friction, causing it to move from one location to another. So, caused by wind. And we have something called the Coriolis effect. And the Coriolis effect forces our ocean currents to travel in a certain direction. So in the northern hemisphere, our ocean currents travel in a clockwise direction. So, northern hemisphere equals clockwise. Or what would look like this. Okay, so moving in that direction. But in our southern hemisphere, we have the opposite direction, so our ocean currents are going to be moving in a counterclockwise direction. Okay, and so if we're flowing that direction in the northern hemisphere, we'll flow the other direction in the southern hemisphere. So we'll be flowing in that direction. Okay, so those are our surface currents. The second type of currents that we need to talk about are our deep currents. And those are the currents that are beneath our surface currents, so deeper than 400 meters. And that's about the rest of the ocean. That's about 90%. So secondly, deeper Okay, so deeper than 400 meters and about 90% of the ocean. And so these currents are driven by differences in density. Remember, density equals mass over volume. So driven And specifically when we're talking about density that is being affected by the temperature of the ocean water. So the colder the water is, the more dense it is. The warmer the water is, the less dense it is. The water that is going to be the warmest is going to be the water that is closest to the equator, that is receiving the most direct sunlight. So let's write temperature in parentheses. Okay, so our water is going to be flowing away from the equator if it is a warm current, and toward the equator if it is a cold current. And so because this is deeper and it is beneath the surface current, it is often called the global conveyor belt. Okay, so it's moving beneath our surface currents, and it is able to carry things for very long periods of time beneath our surface currents. So those are our two types of currents. We have our surface currents and our deep currents, and they are both moving masses of water from one location to another.